Now you can hear me. Now you can hear me. There we go. There we go. Changed to sitting in a chair. So got everything. I feel like lights aren't hitting. Maybe the screen is just dim. Or the following, you bet. We'll get started here. Getting started. How you doing, Savannah? I'm in sitting mode now. Gonna sit and teach. That's how we're gonna do it. They'll say, man, I miss when Brian used to stand and teach. So, standing desk, sitting behind it. Ma Pearson. All the bright lights. Great, how are you? I'm doing pretty good. Found out I need to sit a little bit more. Been standing so much, working out, and then they're like, you need to sit a little bit more. You need to, don't stand as much. On occasion when Bobby fills up his car with gas. That's a good one right there. I like that one. There's a lot of good questions right here. I cheat on these ones because I got my password for Pearson. So these ones are super tricky. Now, here is the way. Let me put this in the video. I'm going to call this Stat Tool 1, Test 1, Knowledge. Okay, if you're watching this right now, we're about to do my Pearson. But when it comes to the test, you have to know the terms, and we are very, very exact on the terms, like what is response bias, what is non-response bias, what is voluntary bias, what is convenience bias, what is undercoverage bias, what is simple random sample, what is stratified sampling, what is cluster sampling. A lot of people get wrong stratified sampling and cluster sampling. That's usually the biggest one. And if you watch the videos where I go over these, I'll tell you in stratified, we acknowledge differences and we sample according to those differences. Now, that might not mean much to you right now. You have to think about what does that mean? What is cluster sampling? Because so many people just confuse clustering and stratified. But I'll tell you, in cluster sampling, we take the whole census of a group. You take the whole group. So there are ways to remember these and ways to practice these. So I highly suggest watching the review videos. We don't even have MuBot on right here. We're going to turn on MuBot and put the review 2 videos in here. And a lot of people think, well, I just did my Pearson. I just looked over the definitions. I'm fine. Watch the review videos, especially for this chapter, because they're going to clue you into how to study for the test and make sure you have that test knowledge. My Pearson's all right for this, but this chapter is so knowing the definitions, knowing how to answer these. So you need clear definitions for things like what is stratified, what is cluster sampling, what is simple random sample sampling, what is, do we say systematic sampling? You need to have an example for each one of those and be able to tell me. Like sampling every 5th M&M off the line of M&Ms is very clearly systematic from a random starting point. Putting all the M&Ms in a bag and choosing a random M&M is simple random sample. Sampling all the red M&Ms would be cluster, but it would not be representative. Sampling 10% of the peanut, 10% of the regular, 80% of something else, which would not be representative either, would be stratified because you're doing sampling in accordance to a difference within the groups. So we're going to get started on the assignment right here, but I cannot stress enough. And let me show this. So my biggest tip, Savannah, to get ready for the test is to go and watch what? If you are getting ready for the test right now, what should you go and watch? If you're getting ready for the test, what should you go and watch? You go right here. Review videos. Catherine, good to see you there. So if you look right here at the review videos, you'll see chapter 10, Davey 504 challenge at the end. This just, yeah. So here's all the definitions. All the definitions. We're about to start the questions, but you can see the definitions on here of, you know, what is a population, what is a parameter, what is a representative sample. I go over all these definitions. There it is. Here's all the steps. Cluster sampling. Things are randomly put into clusters. Randomly take the clusters, perform a census of the clusters, and I probably give you an example. Stratified. There's stratified. I think it actually put in, wow. Did I put in these bookmarks? Or is this AI generated now? No way. Oh, I did this, didn't I? Man, I'm very nice. That's AI generated. Man. Funny, epic beginning. If it AI generated these, yeah, I think I put these in. I remember just like Oh yeah, I did. I remember doing this now where I put like bias sampling begins and then I go over. So yeah, this is as clear as it can get for the whole chapter, complete walkthrough, and it's going to get you that test ready knowledge. So I can't suggest this video enough right here. If you're watching this right now, go and watch this video. It's going to be in the chapter 2 speed runs, and this is going to get you test ready. So just spending 20-ish minutes focused in on this video is going to be a lot of time well spent. Have your notebook beside you, go through this, and try to work those right there. Let's jump in. Is it homework or quiz, Savannah? Which one is it? It's the quiz, right? Okay, you said the quiz to start. So I'm going to get the quiz up and going right now. And there's a lot of questions. Thank you so much, Savannah. Let's do this. So we're going to switch topics right here. I swear that monitor just keeps on like getting chapter 10 quiz. You got it. We got 2 different questions ready to go. And the first one is for the following report about statistics about treatments. And here we go. This question, when you see 50, 50, 50, that's going to be stratified. Like that is literally stratified right there. I can just tell by looking at it because I know stratified's acknowledging differences, and 50 of this, 50 of this, 50 of this is stratifying. It's not a cluster. It's not the way clustering is done. So that is stratified. So that's like where you should get to. If you understand the differences, you'll see something like that and it'll clue you in like that. Chapter 10, the managers of a company. Yeah, wait, we just got it right here. Awesome, Olivia. Well, we'll do this one right here, then we'll do the next one because we found this one. Some of these questions can be weird because they change the way they are listed. So here is the first one we're going to do today, then we'll do the next one. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling through these. So we are currently at 933 Stat 201 chapter, and good to see everybody. Let's throw 100 points out to you right here. Chapter 10 quiz, the managers of a large company. Okay, the managers of a large company. I might actually do this one without showing the answers. Sometimes I'll do that on these. The managers at a large company wish to know the percentage of employees who feel extremely satisfied. Oh, it might not be the same one. We'll try to find a different one here in a moment. To work there. The company has roughly 40,000 employees. The company is considering ways to survey their employees. For each of the designs proposed below, identify the problem. Leave a stack of surveys out in the employee cafeteria so people can pick them up and return them. What kind of bias might there be if people can just pick up the survey and return it on their own will? Don't look at their answers. Think over the biases you know, which are response bias, undercoverage bias, convenience bias, voluntary bias, response bias, non-response bias. What issues might there be? Don't look at their answers. Try to think of your own reasons why this could have problems. Like you're just going to leave them out. Probably voluntary bias, I would think. And are they going with convenience? So it's probably voluntary. There's a little bit of convenience too. If they want us to check 2, it would definitely be voluntary because that's just getting people who have strongest opinions. You choose to pick it up or not. It's also a little bit of convenience. So this is where I get worried on the way they do this. I'm just going to cheat and look at the answers. But it's convenient because they're doing it in an easy way. They're reaching the people easiest to get to. And then probably people with stronger opinions. This wouldn't be a good test question for us because I don't think we should give you both possibilities. And I don't like that it's a multi-select because it's a bit of both. In my estimation, we should put both. And I don't love this as a test question the way we would put this on our test. Identify the next one is stuff a questionnaire in the mailbox of each employee with the request they fill it out and return it. So now every employee should fill it out. And the only problem with this one, which is not listed here, would be if there was what? So I want you to identify a problem that's not listed here, which would be the only problem with this design. So for 100 points, what would be the problem with this design that's not listed here? So I think they're trying to say it doesn't have a problem, but it could have a problem. What is the only problem listed, not listed, that I think it should list? So you have to think through your biases. The biases are response bias, non-response bias, voluntary bias, convenience bias, undercoverage bias, and I think that's all of them. So what bias could there be? And I want someone to answer. I want someone to give this a shot here. You have to think beyond the problem. Boom, Savannah, you got it, non-response, which they didn't list, so they're trying to say it's a good one. Great job, Savannah. I don't know about this first one. We might get it wrong. So we're thinking voluntary. Oh, really? Really? Response bias. They're saying this one has the problem down there? Really? Oh, you do have to select one. Voluntary. So they are kind of going with that. We were right on the first one. I'd prefer to say non-response bias. I guess they're saying people might choose to not fill it out. And they do make a point right here. I wish these things were differentiated a little bit better. Convenience is the way you do it is really easy. Like you're going the extra mile by putting it in everyone's box. You're still getting people with stronger opinions probably, which is the definition of voluntary bias. Voluntary bias is when people with stronger opinions respond. Those with the weaker opinions are like, I'm not going to take the time to do this. If you said you require everyone to do it, then you wouldn't have any bias. So I wish they put non-response bias on here, which non-response bias is kind of the opposite of voluntary bias, because people who don't respond, it's not really in non-response that they don't have strong opinions. It's somehow that they differ in the opinions than those who do respond. To me, they're kind of coupled a little bit, but non-response specifically speaks to people choosing to not take your survey. Voluntary is where people choose to take your survey. So in my opinion, this should have been called non-response bias, like people who do not respond, because we actually made an effort to reach out to them. I usually think of voluntary bias as people trying to make an effort to reach out to you, which goes more towards the surveys in the break room. So sometimes I disagree with my Pearson a little bit. So that question I give a B+ to. Let's see if we can find the next one for the managers at a large company, because there looks to be another one. And I just think we saw the occasion someone filling up their cars around question 11 or so. We're going to try to do a ton of these today. So Savannah, I saw a bunch for the following statistical, and if you give me a lot of info on that one, I think you did. So I saw, oh, there's a bunch. Oh, man. So those can be very randomized. So with the following statistical ones, you're going to get some help from me for those, but those are extremely randomized. Okay, here's another managers at a large company. So the managers of a large company wish to know the percentage of employees who are extremely satisfied to work there. The company has roughly 29,000 employees. These scenarios are given in part A through C. For the scenario, determine the sampling methods used by the managers. 1 tomatoes. Okay, it's the farm one. Okay, we got it. Thank you, Savannah. So they use the company's email to contact 100 employees among those employed for the less than 5 years. 100 among those, employed for 10 years. Ma Pearson. This is an updated problem because I don't remember this one, and we got it though. But they're saying they contact 100 employees who've worked there less than 5 years, 100 employees who worked there 5 to 10 years, and 100 employees who've worked there for more than 10 years. Very clearly, this is what sampling. Very clearly. So systematic is contacting every Kate employee from a random starting point. Simple random sample is contacting random employees, basically drawing numbers out of a hat. That's simple random sample. Everyone has an equal and likely chance to be selected. Simple random sample. Cluster sampling is when you have groups and you take all of a group to kind of speed up the sampling process. Multi-stage sampling is combining together any of the sampling methods I talk about, like where you were to sample like everyone in the 5th dorm. That would be a systematic cluster. And stratified is when you acknowledge differences and sample in accordance to those differences. So which one is it? If you can get this question, this is a good test ready question. This one would be a good test question. Like I would put this one on the test verbatim as is. Wouldn't change anything about it. So if you're thinking, what will the test look like? That's a test question. Can you answer it? A, B, C, D, or E? Don't worry if you get it wrong. It is stratified. Olivia, you are correct, because they are acknowledging differences, because they're taking 100 of this group, 100 of this group, 100 of this group. They're not taking all of the employees who've worked there less than 5 years. If they did that, that'd be a cluster and that would not be representative. Stratified acknowledges differences and then takes samples from within those differences. So this is stratified. Strata means layers in Latin. So like dirt has stratum, and you go within the strata and you take a representative sample. So they're doing that here to represent each group properly. So good answer. Use the company email address to contact every 100th employee on the list. Very clearly one of the methods we've mentioned. So every 100th employee, technically from a random starting point, is what sampling method? Every 100th employee. Every 100th employee. Very clearly one of these. Another good test ready question. Usually like people, 80, 90% of people get this one around the test. This is an easier one to remember. So very clearly one of these. See if you know it. If you're watching this in the future, say it out loud, know the definition. We're going to say the definition afterwards. Catherine, great job right there. This is systematic. Systematic is sampling every kth observation from a random starting point. Sometimes we don't mention the random starting point, but that's the best way to do it. So every 100th, this right there is almost a giveaway at all points that it's systematic. Every kth observation, it could be second, but usually like fifth, sixth, systematic is every kth observation. Several, whoops, oh no, 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 no. Select several divisions of the company at random. Within each division, draw a simple random sample. Really, you don't want to write that out right there. Draw a simple random sample of employees to contact. Choose the correct sampling method below. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting. So select several divisions of the company at random. Within each division, draw in simple random sample, draw a simple man, draw an SRS, I mean the abbreviation is simple random sample. I have problems with this question because when you do stratified, you randomly sample within. So they have stratified on here and they have multi-stage. And I think they're going for multi-stage. But in technicality, you're just really stratifying. So if we get one wrong, it's going to be this one. And that is just the way it's worded and having multi-stage on there is mean. They made it sound like a multi-stage. And the steps for stratified, you do a simple random sample. Now, I guess they don't make sure they have the right size because I just want to talk to the person who wrote this question. I just know the way they wrote it, they were leaning towards multi-stage because they're saying you do this and then you do this. No, I'm wrong. It is multi-stage, 100% certain. You know why? Because they're not taking in accordance with every division of the company. They're only so they're doing two simple random samples. So they do a simple random samples of the divisions, and then they do a simple random sample within the division. Does that make sense? This is 100% multi-stage. I stand corrected because it's not of all the divisions. They're first simple random sampling the divisions, and then simple random sampling within the simple random sample. So that is a multi-stage. So multi-stage is just when you do two or more types of sampling together in your sampling. Does that make sense what a multi-stage is? So they took a simple random sample of their divisions and then they simple random sampled. Good morning, Blakely. Good to see you here. This is actually a good question again now. It is definitely not stratified because to do stratified, you would do simple random samples within every division because you wouldn't want to underrepresent. And this is not a great sampling method because you would have underrepresentation or undercoverage bias. So really good question right here. I like this question. Once again, I try to tell you the ones I like and the ones I don't like. This is a test ready question, as we like to say here, because this is mainly knowledge right here. We're going to do the tomato one. So let's do that. Tomatoes. So one tomatoes and one's treatments. Okay. Gotta find the tomatoes. These can be hard to find, so we might have to settle for something. Oh, wait, is that it? Pretzels. So this is week's worth of lettuce. Is this Savannah, is this what the question looks like? Because they'll change out lettuce for tomatoes, for carrots, for bananas, for whatever. Is this what your question looks like right here? Is this what the question looks like? If this is what the question looks like, if it says like food safety inspectors visit produce farms unannounced and take samples of a week's worth of tomatoes to test for contamination. If the samples are found to be containing dirt, antibiotics, unsuited for human consumption, or the foreign material, the tomatoes will be destroyed. The farm will be regularly inspected until purity is restored. Is this the question, but it just says tomatoes? Because yep, okay, good. Yep, that's what I thought. They'll change I don't know why they think it's so important to change it, but yeah. We're gonna hit show answers. You see it says wheat right there. So this should be similar to yours. Watch out because there are small differences in these questions that can lead to big differences in how they do it. This one might be static enough. There are a few tricks to these, so I do get kind of sassy with it and get kind of like, really, Matt Pearson? So I just show answer on this one. Okay. Produce farms and wheat tomatoes. Okay. Let's take a look at this question right here. So think about what they want to study, and what they want to understand would be called the what. What they want to understand, the group they want to understand everything about, or the not everything about rather, because parameter isn't everything, but the group they want to understand is called the what. So I'm asking these questions in a different way to review terminology right here. The group they want to understand is the population. Catherine got some points right there. The population is what we're interested in. We want to understand the population. They want to understand all produce farms that produce wheat. So they're very interested in wheat today. They're the wheat inspectors. Identify the parameter of interest. Now this is where I get mad, and I think I know the answer to it. The answer is that it's a little unclear. And I swear every time I do this, I always think it's the presence of contaminants. And that's where I always make a mistake on this one. And I would not like it as a test question because I think they say it's kind of unclear what they're looking for. So the answer is, it's not clear. So as you can see, I remember this one. I think that's a little bit unfair because what exactly are they measuring? What exactly do they want to know? And it should say it's unclear, but it's something to do with contaminants. How much contaminants? What percent are contaminated? What are the contaminants? They don't say exactly what the issue is right here. They're just trying to find contaminants. And it really is not fair that they have these right here. Don't love it. Hey, Catalina, good to see you here. Hope everyone had a great break. I just don't like this question. This is the one that I always get wrong when I do the question, and I remember when I see it, and I think maybe this time they actually are gonna say it. What is a parameter of interest? A parameter of interest is a value that is a true value. Think about the next US election. What is the parameter of interest for the next US election? What is the next US presidential election? What is the parameter of interest? Can you solve this problem? What is the parameter of interest for the next US election? What is the parameter of interest for the next US election? We're just talking about parameter of interest. It means for all the data, which is the population, what do we want to understand? What is the parameter of interest for the next US election? See if you can figure out that one. We're reviewing terminology here because terminology is the most important thing. One thing to ace my Pearson, but we want to ace the test. So we have to know what is a parameter of interest. Have a good definition on your piece of paper. Parameter of interest is the thing we want to understand for the whole population. So for the next US election, US presidential election, what is the parameter of interest? Anyone know? Throw out some points here. Don't worry about being wrong. Just see if you can figure out what is the parameter of interest for the next US election. Well, that would be the population. Boom, Savannah, that's the population. That is the group we want to understand. So the population is the group we want to understand. The parameter for the population is what we want to understand about that group. So you have the population is voting adults or voters, people who vote. That is the population of interest. The parameter is what? So what do we want to understand about the voters? What they in the percent they vote for the president, like that. Does that make sense? And kind of voter turnout's important, but probably the number one thing and voter turnout might be important for like groups like DNC, RNC. That might be the most important thing for them is like to understand voter turnout. But the number one thing they probably want to understand is how they vote, like the percent who vote for someone. So that is the parameter, the value we want to understand for the population. Will we ever find out how people vote in the election? Will we ever know the parameter of interest? Yes or no? Will we ever know the parameter of interest for the US election? Will we ever know the thing we want to know about how people vote? Will we ever know that? Will we ever know the parameter of interest? We have a lot of people doing polls right now. If you go to 538, you can see polls on the election, which are just samples, trying to figure out the truth with statistics. But we will though. We will know the truth on election day. On election day, we find out the parameter of interest and we see what is the truth for how people vote. So the samples right now are just polls giving us estimates of the truth, sample statistics. And then on election day, we find out the parameter of interest, sample statistics, and then we find out the parameter of interest. Does that make sense, Savannah? This is good and getting some points right here. Practicing the terms, understanding what a sample statistic is and a population parameter is. So that's the whole point of this right here is what is the sample statistic? What is the population parameter? Next question is the sample frame. Now, what is a sample frame? You should have good, and literally this is one of the questions on the test, asks you for the definition of a sample frame. So there is a test question. I'm dropping test questions now. It's a teaching the test moment. What is a sample frame? It's everyone or everything we could what? Pretty sure the test question just literally asks it this way. What is a sample frame? It's everyone or everything we could what? What definition do you have for sample frame? Sample frames are not the units. The sample frame, good answers, Catherine. The sample frame is everyone or everything we could theoretically sample. So when it's like you have this frame and you could pick your samples out of it. So imagine a dessert tray is being brought to you. So you go to a fancy restaurant, go to a really fancy pants, Pinky in the Air restaurant, and you want to try their desserts. Now they might have desserts in the back of the restaurant that you don't get to try. But the desserts right here on this tray are the desserts you could sample. Now maybe they got a really cool wedding cake in the background, but are you gonna know how good the wedding cake is? You wouldn't understand or put that in your sample frame because you don't have access to sample it, right? So the sample frame are the things you have access to sample. So the sample frame are the things you could theoretically sample. It doesn't mean you do sample them. So try this classic question I use right here. If Brian goes to the library and talks to 50 UT students, what is my sample frame? If Brian goes to the library and talks to 50 UT students, what is my sample frame? Classic question to understand the idea of sample frame. If Brian goes to the library and talks to 50 UT students, what is my sample frame? I want to understand UT students, and I talked to 50 of them at the library. What is my sample frame? Sample frame is all things you have access to sample. So what would be my sample frame? Brian goes to the library, wants to understand UT students, talks to 50 UT students. What was Brian's sample frame? Really good question if you understand how to answer this and know what a sample frame is. Sample frame is all things or people we have access to sample. Oh, I love this question. It really shows if you know it. So take a shot at it. If you don't know, you get points either way. Brian goes to the library to talk to 50 students because he wants to understand UT students. What was Brian's sample frame? Or if you're watching the future, try to answer it. Because it's really good. Do you know what a sample frame is? Both thinking music here. The question is, Brian goes to the library and he talks to 50 UT students to understand UT students. And he talks to 50 of them at the library. What was Brian's sample frame? What was Brian's sample frame? Any thoughts? I'm hoping someone gets it because then they'll be like, yes, you know what a sample frame is. Sample frame is everything you have access to sample. It's not what you sample. It's not the group you're interested in. Ah, Savannah, good guess. Savannah, we're throwing you 100 points right there. It's not UT students. Good guess. Not UT students. It's students at the library. So, because I'm at the library and to be students at the library at that time, because that's who I could theoretically talk to, UT students. Yes, Savannah, another 100 points. It's everyone at the library. Because those are the people I can talk to. It's the ones I have access to. So the population is UT students because I want to understand UT students. The students I can speak to, I have access to, are the students at the library. So the answer to this one is whatever wheat we have access to. So it's going to be the wheat produced that day at that farm, wherever we go. So all wheat produced at all produce farms that week. Because if it's produced during a different week, we don't have access to it. Does that make sense? So it'd have to be the wheat that is currently at the farm when we go to it, because that's the wheat we could sample. We don't have access to all produce farms. It would have to be the wheat at the produce farms we go to that week, or the tomatoes at the produce farm that week, because we don't have access to other things. We can't sample them theoretically. The sample, this is literally what you take. Whatever wheat you take, whatever students you take is your sample. So if you take 50 students at the library, the 50 students are your sample. So a week's worth of wheat or a week's worth of tomatoes. The stuff we take to analyze is the sample. 50 students at the library, 50 students is the sample. The sampling method used right here, they get kind of weird with this one. I think once again, this is it's not very clear. It's convenience and not specified because they're kind of getting just a lot of it and they're just kind of grabbing the easiest stuff. If you talk to 50 random students at the library, it would be a simple random sample of students because you're just grabbing random students and they don't really specify if it's randomized or not. They don't leave anyone out because they're taking it all at once. So although, and this is where I get a little bit mad at this question, although it's convenience and they're taking the easiest stuff, they're kind of taking a census. They're doing it unannounced. So are there any problems? Probably not big ones. I don't see any big ones. There might be other ways they could formulate this problem. Once again, we just kind of talked through it. Does that make more sense, Savannah? We just kind of talk through it here and make sure we understand the key concepts, like what is a population, what is a parameter, what is a sample frame, what is a sample. You want to have clear definitions and examples of each one of these and be able to answer like what is a population, what is a sample, what is the sample frame, what is convenience bias, what is undercoverage bias, what is voluntary bias, what is response bias, what is non-response bias, what is systematic sampling, what is stratified sampling, what is cluster sampling, what is multi-stage sampling, what is simple random sample, what is... There's so many different things, and you just want to have each one of these on a term. And if you just heard me go through those really quickly, go over here to the video, which we'll put the link in the chat again. Thank you, Savannah, right there. We're going to put the link in the chat again for the video, and go to this video right here where I go through each one of these with examples. Occasionally, Josh fills his car. You got it, Blakely. Let's do that one. So check out the review page if you're watching this in the future, because you have to, the best way to do this is to have examples. Oh my gosh, there's all the answers. There's all the answers. Let's do it here. Let's get the answers. This one I'll do. There's a few that I just like really dislike with this quiz where it's like they're just so mean with the it's not clear, and I'm like, then maybe you should make it clear if you're trying to test me on my knowledge, because making it vague and then putting a it's kind of vague answer is like, really gonna do it to me? Occasionally. When Mark, did they change the name? They literally changed the name. They're like, no one will figure out this is the same question if we change the name. Occasionally Mark fills his car with gas. Occasionally fills it with orange juice. Don't do that. So he figures out how many miles per gallon he got. He wrote down those results after 6 fill-ups in the past few months. Overall, it appears that his car got 22.3 miles per gallon. Not that bad. What statistic has he calculated? Well, sure. Oh, they're saying, okay, I got this. I think this is a new one. So Mark has calculated, and so they really don't make it clear. He's calculating the mean because, well, he's not calculating it because it's basically saying he got this many miles per gallon. Yeah, because miles per gallon would be on average. Yeah, so that's a mean. Just trying to like outthink their question and complain to my Pearson. No, it's touchscreen. Of the gas mileage for, because they're saying what statistic, and the key thing here is statistics always come from a what? A statistic is created from a what? So finish Brian's sentence. A statistic is what we call the calculation when it is created from a what? Points on the board if you get it. Statistics are created from what's? Statistics are created from what's? Like to say I have a statistic, it means that that value you're talking about came from a this. So if you say I have calculated a statistic, well then your data is a what? Your group or the information you have is a what of the total. So think what we have over there. So if you say you have a statistic, your statistic would have came from a what? Oh, don't worry. There's a hint on the screen. 100 points for I don't know. That's points too. There's a hint on the screen. Statistics always come from what's. And I give a hint in class a lot of times. I will say the following. You'll hear me say, SS PP. There we go. And 100 points. It's good to say I don't know, because that means I'm asking a good question. Great job, Savannah, right there. Sample statistics give us estimates of population parameters. So you notice they're doing that right here. Good practice of the terminology again. So he's calculated a sample mean, and he's doing this of the last 6 fill-ups of his car. And he wants to understand, so his population of interest would be, so he's trying to estimate the population mean. He wants to know the true gas mileage for what? So this, I love this question right here. Don't even think about, don't look at their questions. If he wants to know the truth, it would be for what car fill-ups? Like for the year, for maybe in the future. So for like every single fill-up of his car. Oh, you looked at the answers, I'll tell you 100 points. So it'd be every single, it's not all cars, because he wants to understand the truth for his car. So when we say the population parameter, I thought it'd be all fill-ups of his car, like what is his true miles per gallon of all fill-ups he does? Because it's like, well, how much miles per gallon do I really get? And his best estimate of that is from his sample. So he wants to understand the true miles per gallon for his car. His results may be biased, and think about ways his results may be biased, because in this could be, oh yeah, I can think of a lot of ways. Let's say this is during the summertime and Mark is going on cross-country trips. Let's say this is during, or let's say Mark's car is brand new and he's saying this is what his car will get for forever. What are other ways it could be biased? Now don't click their answers, because biased means he's not getting a representative sample. So with biased, it would be he doesn't have a representative sample. So when you have a biased sample right here, it's that your results are not representative. And there's just so many ways it could be biased. And I think I know which one they go towards. I think I have done this question now on a lot of them. Sometimes they make them look a little different. A lot of, yeah, and the outside factors could be like, what if he's just driving on city roads? Like, what if he over like this period of time was like, he was moving cross country? Recent driving conditions may not be typical. Yeah, if they are typical, then this would not be biased. So if his recent driving conditions are a great sample of what he always does, then that's good right there. The price of fuel is constant. That doesn't matter. Price of fuel would not impact miles per gallon, but it may be that lately he's been driving, like, I don't know, he's been towing stuff. Like maybe the last 4 fill-ups, he was working a job where he had to tow things and he was getting worse miles per gallon. So maybe his driving conditions weren't typical, and that'd be a biased sample. The EPA would be trying to estimate, so the EPA would want to know the mean. They would want to know, when we say population mean, that's what they want to know, of what? So the EPA doesn't just care about Mark's car. They'd want to know what cars. The EPA, if they're trying to understand this car and if it should be on the road, they want to understand what. And because Mark wants to know all his fill-ups, but the EPA would want to know what. Good morning, George. Oh, that's so good. Hey, George, good to see you there. I'll just blink out in and out of existence. Currently in class. Well, I hope you're having a great class. The EPA would want to know all cars of makes and models. They don't care about Mark's car. Yeah, this is a good question too. On yeah, some good stuff right there. What other questions do we have? Because that was the 2 Savannah has. It was Bobby for Savannah though. So Bobby right there. We'll throw George 100 points. Which one are we gonna do next? We're out of questions. We are out of questions. We gotta do more. Gotta do more questions. Could you do for the following reports to for the company food snacks? Yeah, Texas A&M. What about Texas A&M? So let's go here. Food snacks. Food snacks. They took away one of my favorite questions. Treatment. One of the first questions. One of the first questions. Treatments. Okay. For a week's worth of lettuce, we already did this one. We're trying to find the company and food snacks. These can be hard to find. So if you see one similar, tell me. Administration Texas A&M, you got it. I'm gonna go call them and be like, we're talking about you guys. Tell me if you see the food snack one or something similar. They just changed those ones up so much. That one's a good one. I'm trying to find it. Food snacks. I have to come back to the food snack one. They literally make these so similar. The pretzel one may be similar. Oh, and what number was that? We saw a pretzel one? Okay. Thank you right there. I actually went crazy one time trying to find these. Here's pretzels. Okay, cool. Yeah, they literally just change like one word in it, or sometimes they change majorly. So I go crazy. I'm like, where is the question? Okay, writing down the question. A company packaging pretzels. I think this is the part right here to always give me, even because the following there's a lot with that. A company packaging pretzels. Yeah. Packaging is a weird word. Okay. So the population here, we'll hit the change on it and see if we get food snacks. That's pretzels. Okay. So the population, how is a population defined? How is a population defined? What is the treatment one? Oh, thank you, Savannah. That's a good one right there. I like that. I'll look for that. So how is a population defined? We'll do Savannah's one next right here. Thank you, Savannah. How is a population defined? Like, what is the definition you have on your note card for a population? What is a population? The population is what? So we need a definition. Kind of working it backwards here again. What is a population? Everything or person we want to understand, exactly. So great job, Savannah, right there, more points. So the population is every person or thing we want to understand. So they want to understand all the bags of pretzels produced by the companies. That's good, they're a company that produces pretzels, they want to understand all the bags. Now the parameter is the thing they want to understand about this. I know, right? Savannah, because she's practicing all, yeah. Catherine, we're throwing some more points. Thank you for all the positivity. Savannah doing great right there. Keep it up. You just got to practice it. And don't worry. See, here's the thing. No one remembers when you get things wrong. Everyone's like, man, they get everything right. And Savannah gets everything right. So keep it up. That's what we do right here is we get things right. We practice. We get it down. We just keep repeating the terms. Population is everything or person we want to understand. It's the group we want to understand. Whatever it is. Pretzel bags, people, UT students, the group we want to understand. The parameter is the thing about the group. So what do they want to understand about the pretzel bags? Does that make sense? When I say the parameter for the population, it's what do we want to understand about the pretzel bags? We're just going to cheat and look at it. It's unclear. I don't know what I want to understand about these pretzel bags. That's not fair, my Pearson. Once again, not a huge fan of this question. Now, the sample frame would be the pretzel bags we have what to sample. Think of an A word. The sample frame would be the pretzel bags. I want an A word right here. And this goes back to the UT library students, or the students at the library. The sample frame would be the pretzel bags we have what to sample. The sample frame would be the pretzel bags we have what to sample. Think of an A word, which is really good. I think the test basically uses this too. Not analyze. Good guess. We're throwing you another 100 points on top of that, Catherine. Not analyze. So the way it works is if Brian goes to the library to talk to UT students, the students at the library are my sample frame because I have this A word to sample them. So the sample frame is always the people or things from the population you have. It's an AC word. Think of AC. Because if you say the word or you think it, you're going to remember it more than me saying it. So the sample frame, we're going to throw another 100 points so one gets it right. The sample frame is the group or people that you want to understand that you have what to sample. Access, Savannah got it right there. And we talked about like a wedding cake. You go to a fancy pants restaurant, and at this fancy restaurant, they bring out a tray of desserts, but they got a wedding cake in the back. You don't have access to sample the wedding cake. You can't get into the back. You only can take from the tray that they give you access to sample from. So you don't know, maybe people are like, oh, this is the best place in the world. I tried their wedding cake. You're like, I didn't have access to that. It wasn't in my sample frame. So whatever pretzel bags they can get a hold of, which are going to be the ones produced that day, all bags produced that day at the company, those are going to be the bags that they can sample. So bags produced previous to today, they're not going to know about. They'll be like, but we were so good yesterday. And it's like, well, we don't have access to yesterday's bags. We can only sample from today's bags. So those are the ones they can take from. Does that make sense what a sample frame is? It's the things you can sample from. My favorite example, once again, is if I go to the library to talk to UT students, students at the library are my sample frame. It doesn't mean I'm going to talk to all of them. It just means I can theoretically talk to anyone in the library. So I think that's what usually gets people mistaken on the sample frame, is it's a theoretical group because it's not UT students, it's not the students I speak to, It's the students who are at the library who I could talk to. Could you not sample somebody in your sample frame? Yes or no? Could you not sample somebody in your sample frame? Could you not sample somebody in your sample frame? Yes or no? Good question to understand what's going on with the sample frame. Could you not sample somebody in your sample frame? Could you not sample somebody in your sample frame? That's like me saying, with this tray of desserts, could you not try one of those desserts? Could you not sample one of those desserts? With that tray of desserts right there, that is the desserts you have access to try. Would you not sample one of those desserts? Yes or no? So with UT students in the library, could I not sample a student who's in the library? Yes or no, your thoughts? So with UT students in the library, could I not sample a student in the library? What do you think? Don't worry if you get it wrong. Points either way. You know we do points here. Could I not? Exactly. Because you just have access to sample them. That's all it means. So the sample frame doesn't mean they're in your sample. They would be in your population because you're sampling things from the population you care about. But it doesn't mean that you will sample them. What is the sample for the study? Whatever we take. And it depends on how it happens. Like maybe Starbucks won't let me go into Starbucks, and so that could be undercoverage. Like maybe I'm doing a survey on undercoverage is when you leave out a certain group. Like I'm doing a survey on, do you drink coffee while you study? And Starbucks says you can't do your survey in here. So I go into the library to do my research on, do you drink coffee while you study? And then I'm not allowed to go into Starbucks. So I undercover students who go to the library and go into Starbucks, and students who are studying in the Starbucks area, because there's that back area. You could make it be an undercoverage example. Like you've undercovered like students, like by not having access to that area, you have undercoverage bias, and you should have been able to sample within that area. So you could make it work that way. Good answer, Savannah. Another 100 points. Yeah, you could weave it into that. What is the sample? It would just be the wheat we take or the pretzels we take that day. The 80 total pretzel bags that are open from the selected cases. So they're doing selected cases. So a case is basically a group, and I think this is where they're going with this. So since the case is a group of pretzels, and they're taking multiple cases, I'm pretty sure this is very clearly one type of sampling method. Very good test question right here, because they're taking 80 bags from cases, and there's 20 cases, and it looks like they have 4 bags each. 4 random bags from each case. Okay, ooh, they opened 4 random bags from each case. Okay, this is tricky. Be careful. They're going to a case, and let me explain this. You know what method? I'm pretty sure I know what method this is. It might actually be this. This is 20 random cases are selected. I think I know where they're going. This is very similar to one we've already done today. So they've got all these cases around here, and they're going to go to 20 random cases. And within the 20 random cases they take, so they're taking 20 random cases. Just so I use their quicker. And then they take 4 bags within each case. So they have to randomly take the cases, and they have to randomly take the bags within the case. What method is this? So they're going to take 20 random cases, and they're going to take 20 random 4 random bags within each. Pretty sure I know exactly what this is now. So they're taking 20 random cases. There are a bunch of cases everywhere. They open up 20 random cases. So they're going to take, I think it is, Savannah, great job. Great minds, think alike, you got it. This is very similar to the previous one. They might be trying to trick us here. Other possible answers, it can't be cluster because they're not taking all the bags within a case. And it's not really stratified because then they would go to all the cases and take 4 bags from each. It's probably multi-stage. I think it is, so no trout there. So what is the sample for, say, multi-stage method right there. So it was a multi-stage. Is randomization employed? Oh yeah. We just said it's a simple random sample. So double simple random sample right there. So multi-stage, definitely multi-stage right there, and simple random sample. What group, if any, was left out? So since they're doing randomization, random methods are not what? Random methods, think of a B word. Randomized methods should not be what? Like a good randomized method should not have what? It should be representative and not have the B word, the bad B word. So a good randomized method, no bias. Exactly, Savannah on fire right here. Should not be left out, no bias. Great job, Catherine. More points in the chat. Catherine, you are right. My points took a little. What type of bias? Oh, we just answered the next question. There's no bias. So I like that right there. Catherine checking out those points, oh my gosh, getting to the higher levels right there. So this is, you're still on SB mode. What is SB mode? Oh, spring break mode. Oh, I get it right there. Well, good work. We got to do the next question. We'll do a little transition right here. Spring break mode. I like that right there. Spring break mode. What is the next question? What is the next question? Which one are we doing next? Texas A&M administration. Ooh. Texas A&M administration. And good work here, everybody. These are tougher questions. Is that the PTA one I like? You're welcome, Catherine. Great work. Treatments, we'll do treatments. What's the treatments one say? And we'll do Texas A&M. And drop some more questions if you want. Major League Baseball's kind of, eh. Save the pigeons. Are birds real? I don't know. Where's the birds aren't real people these days? Oh, there it is. I just saw it. Where are those? Where are they at? They're fun. You talk to the birds, not real people. They're a hoot. I'm gonna tell them that. I kind of like them because I think they foster critical thinking. Like, try to talk to someone who has researched a topic very well, and even if they're wrong, it's very hard to debate someone who understands things well. Like, the problem is, like, you can be wrong and be good at debate and make better points, and it's like, that's why you gotta have knowledge. You gotta have knowledge and then know how to use that knowledge. That's what we're here to do, is help you have knowledge, help you utilize knowledge, and make data-driven decisions with statistics and business analytics. Okay, that's what administrators at Texas A&M are doing. Let's do this question. Administrators at Texas A&M, Major League, you got it, Olivia. Administrators at Texas A&M University were interested in estimating the percentage of students who are the first in their family to go to college. I like that, first-gen college students. The A&M student body has about 50,000 members. The A&M administration is considering a variety of ways to sample students for a survey. For each of the proposed design, identify the problem. Very similar to the other ones we've done. We're going to try to come up with our own answers here. So let's see. Publish an advertisement inviting students to visit a website and answer questions. Now, there's two of these in between, but this seems kind of easy. I'm thinking this seems easy and we're not really going that extra mile to get responses. So what does Brian think this is? To me, this sounds like an easy way of doing it. You're just kind of putting it out there in the world, and you're just kind of like, hey, I know people with strong opinions are probably going to do it, but I think they're going for the easy route. That this was done because we can only select one this time. I think they're going for this is done too easy. Like, this was done in such an easy fashion, we're not really getting a good view of what's going on. The best example of this for me is you go to campus and you talk to the first 100 students you see. That's usually how a test question's worded on this. So I think we're going for the idea of you go to campus and you talk to the first 100 students you see. That's the way I'd do it as a test question if I did it, which I would want you to pick this answer. So what do you think this bias is? So if I said you go to campus and you talk to the first 100 students you see, the first 100. You go to campus and talk to the first 100. What kind of bias would that be? Don't worry if you're wrong, just take guesses. Good practice right here. That's a better test question. We always think about how would this be on the test, because we're going to get test ready. So you go to campus, you talk to the first 100 students. Convenience, yeah. And there's voluntary on this a little bit because people would be more likely to go to the website if they have strong opinions. But I think they're going for this is set up too easy. They're not making the extra effort to get a good sample. They're just going for easy people like, hey, we'll put it on the web, people respond to it, whatever. Of course, people with stronger opinions are going to respond, but since we only select one. Set up a table in the student union, ask students to stop and answer a survey. This one, they're kind of going a little bit of the extra. No, I can't spell it either. It's a weird, yeah, I don't know how to spell it, whatever. 100 points, can't spell. I like that. Set up a table in the student union, ask students to stop and answer a survey. I think they're trying to clarify the differences here. This also is a little bit, I don't love these because it's like volunteers are convenient. It's convenient to have volunteers. But I think they're saying the people who will stop have stronger opinions. And we got it completely wrong. Is it literally the reverse? I actually hate this question. I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate this question because I got it wrong. Voluntary bias, because people who are going to the website have strong opinions. It's not like people who stop at your table aren't going to have strong opinions. So convenience is getting the ones you have easiest access to. You know what I'm going to do? Watch this. Watch this. We're going to chat GPT this. We're going to decide this. We're going to chat GPT this question. I'm going to totally see what the AI says, and I'm hoping the AI sides with me. Then we'll do the next question right here. We're loading up UTverse. I'm already logging in. It's taking a while to load. I've used UTverse so much. We're going to, the definitive case right here, just spinning away. Then we'll do the next question. Load UTverse. Is UTverse down? Pop up blocked? Oh, it's like it's. Oh, it's asking me to log in. Please not steal my info. Next question. I have to know. I want confirmation. I have to text it. What'd she say? Good news for my wife right there. Okay. All right, here's a new chat. Here we go. There's so much you can do with the UTverse. Okay. Is the following an example of convenience, can't spell it, or voluntary bias? I can't spell voluntary. Oh, I put an I in there. I don't usually get that wrong. Convenience. I'm so far off, we can't even. Convenience. Did I actually do it right? No way. Okay. All right, let's see. I said this one was, I can't remember now. Oh, convenience bias is a form of bias occurs when samples are selected because they're easy to have access to. Exactly what I said. And then those who feel strongly, voluntary bias is those who feel this. I know the definitions. Therefore, depending on how the data collected process is structured and how respondents are chosen, there are elements of both biases present. Literally what I said. Literally what I said. It's both. It's both. And that's just what's nonsense about this. Make an argument for it only being convenience or voluntary. That is so nonsense. I was right not to like it. Let's see what it says. We're going to see which way it sides. It'll probably be like, I can't do that. It'd be funny if it said I can't. Sure, Brian, let's consider the scenario for the voluntary bias perspective. Well, it's going to do both. Okay, so it's doing voluntary. Man, it's just crazy. AI just insane. Which would suggest convenience bias. Therefore, an argument could be made that this scenario primarily represents voluntary bias rather than convenience bias. Okay. And AI is nuts. Oh, and is it primarily represents voluntary bias. Okay. And let's look at this one. So there's the argument for it. So it's saying, okay, you could do an argument. Do the same for the following scenario. Okay. Have to know. So it's basically telling me it's sided with my Pearson, and maybe it was just a 50-50 coin flip on which way it went. So it's saying convenience. In the situation where a table is set in student union, convenience bias is likely to be more present than voluntary bias. Okay, because you have easier access. The students of the sample survey is not randomly selected from the entire student body, but rather is chosen on who happens to be in the student union and willing to stop at the particular time. This removes convenience bias because it potentially excludes a significant portion of students who do not frequent the student. You're just getting the ones you have easier access to. Okay. Because you would have access to everybody by putting a survey online. But even then, you have more access to the ones who use internet. Well, that's just crazy. I tell you, you can do AI to answer a lot of these questions. It's pretty nuts. Okay, let's do the next one right here. So once again, I don't love these because they are kind of blended. Identify the problem. It should be more clear. Once again, voluntary bias is when people with stronger opinions do your survey, the strong opinions, the volunteers. And then convenience bias is when you do it in a way that it's easily done or you have more easy access to people that's not representative. So it's easier to get a hold of people in the student union. So once again, check out the answers that we just saw on AI or use AI to your advantage. What is the treatment one, Savannah? Savannah, thank you so much. We're gonna, we might have more, but Savannah, thank you for being here. What does the treatment one say? How does the treatment one go? I'll try to find it right here and we'll do the treatment question. How does the treatment one go? Where I lost some answers here. How does the treatment one go? It's the first question we did, but the last question is Roman numerals. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm already saying that now. All right, so let me see. I'll try to find it. If you see it, let me know. We're just scrolling through till we see it. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Okay, we found it. Okay, you see, look, it's literally, oh, it's oral medicine treatments. Okay. Voters in an election, you got it, Blakely. Thank you, Blakely. Thank you, everybody, for being here, practicing. I know sometimes I go on tangents, but I always like this. Even I try to get better understandings. I've been doing these topics for 13 years. And even then, I want to like fine tune my knowledge. I get very unhappy, especially if my Pearson question's vague. I want to have that fine-tuned knowledge so I can be very exact. And then on the test, we don't have any ambiguous questions. That's the thing to know about the test, is the test is very exact on what we want you to put. There's no, oh, it's vague. We don't have any answers like that on the test. We don't like that. Okay, let's go through the question, not let my Pearson trip us up this time. So with this right here, let's take a look. Windows. Okay. So what the population of interest, and I hate that for this, it's unclear, but probably all US adults. Once again, we'll never put that on the test. The population is every person or thing you want to understand. And if you don't have a clearly defined population, what are you doing? You should know who you want to understand. So they're trying to understand US adults, and they're sending, it's their magazine, right? A consumer magazine asked all adult subscribers whether they had used experimental medical treatments. Yeah, they probably want to understand adults, US adults. That's probably what they want. Or yeah, it says of a country, so it's probably, I don't know, maybe. And let's go down further. What is the parameter of interest? This one is actually, I think, pretty clear because the parameter is what we want to understand about that group. So we want to understand the percent who have used experimental treatments. So the proportion who have used, or the percent who have used experimental treatments. And this is the sample statistic. That is our estimate of the percent of all adults in the country who've used it. Now, the problem is we're talking to people from our magazine. That's our sample frame. So that's going to be biased right here, because if this is a magazine about experimental treatments, it's probably going to be higher. If it's ones about like a science magazine, which is not so experimental, then it'd be lower. So you can already kind of tell there might be bias in this because we only have access to the people who are our subscribers to the magazine. And when I say access to the people who are subscribers, that's the sample frame. So who are we going to be able to talk to? Who are we sampling from? It's only going to be the people who subscribe to our magazine, and that's the sample frame, all subscribers to the magazine. Once again, the way to do these questions is to know the answers before you see them. Some of these answers are a little bit vague though, and I hate that. I always want clear answers, like who do we have access to sample? People who have the magazine. That's who we're going to be able to reach out to. So that is what a sample frame is, the people you could theoretically talk to, not the people you talk to, that's your sample, not the people you want to know, that's your population. Know the definitions. What is the sample for the study? Just everyone who replied to the magazine, anyone who filled out the survey. So anyone who talked to us, that's our sample. What sampling method? This is where it's a little bit unclear, and it's also kind of not random. They just reached out to everybody who had the magazine right. So it's kind of just a census, or it's either going to be unclear. It's not any sort of random, I don't think. Or I don't think they were going to call it a cluster of the magazine. It's kind of a non-random. Ooh. Ooh. Savannah. I don't know if you looked at the answer. Savannah, 500 points. We only do these rare, huge bursts of points when it is voluntary, 100%. Yeah, once you said it, I knew it. Yeah. Because why? People who have strong opinions about this are going to be more likely to respond. So this is 100% a voluntary. I usually think of voluntary bias, but it's voluntary response sampling. You need to. It's a non-random method. This is not a good random sampling method. So if it asks if it's random next, no. The convenience is not random either, because it's a convenience bias. So if you have convenience bias, you did convenience sampling. So that's a non-random method. Stratified is random, systematic is random, simple random sample is random, cluster is random. We have the set of random samples. Once again, I have to say, check out the video right here, dropping a link in the chat. If you want to review all the terms and have them all written down, I go through them step by step here, and I write out the steps for the randomized sampling methods. You can see them on the screen right there, and you can see the bias methods right there, which this is voluntary and this is biased. So is it random, it might ask next, and the answer is no. No, not random at all. So that is bad. Savannah, I think you're one of our point leaders right there. We got to start making some new student levels. Who's left out of the study? There's lots of groups left out. If this is the multi-group, it's going to be people not subscribed to the magazine. That's probably the most important one, is people not subscribed to the magazine. That's the big group not left out. Yeah, because they don't have access to them because they can't reach them. Good to see you here, Bo. Bo getting the points too. Bo, let's try 100 points. Gotta speak, get those points. What type of bias is evident? So there's a whole bunch of bias. Well, first off, we did voluntary. So it's voluntary, and then we also said we left people out. So I'm pretty sure I know which two are going to be on here. So since we have voluntary bias, and we did voluntary response sampling, and we left people out, what's the second type of bias there is? We left people out. Like, we don't have access to get these people. So what is the second bias? It's definitely voluntary, and then there's one more. Under coverage, Bo, with those points right there. Yep, so it should be those two right here at the end. Voluntary and under coverage. They don't. Now, you could always come up with reasons for these other ones, but they don't explicitly mention them, so I wouldn't do that. So voluntary, because it's a voluntary response, and then under coverage because we left people out. So the under coverage is specifically because we don't have access to sample people who don't subscribe to our magazine. Does that make sense? You can make arguments for non-response. You can make an argument for it, but they don't specifically mention it right here. And that's where they're telling you there is undercoverage bias. Does that make sense? A little tricky. You could argue any of them, but they want you to specifically look at what they put you down as, like a flow chart right here. So they give you like this pathway, and at the end they want you to say these two, because they want you to be like, oh, it was voluntary sampling, voluntary bias. Oh, we left these people out, undercoverage, which is the definition of undercoverage. Does that make sense, Savannah? How are we doing on this one? My hair still looks wet. In the camera. Got a little shine to it. Awesome. I get a haircut today. You never know. You never know. Okay, good question. I think Blakely had one, did they? Keep dropping those questions. These are next. Voters in the coming election. I like it. Voters in the. I was talking about elections. That'd be interesting. Where? Oh, because I have show complete. Voters in the coming election. Voters. See, these are fun little ones right here. I always like doing these quick ones to see if we got the knowledge. So we'll just do these quick ones as a quick moment right here. You're trying to understand the amount of financial services students at your university receive. You sample 50 students and find out the average size of the financial aid package. The average of your sample is a statistic. Sample statistic. This comes from a sample. You are doing a study on a nonprofit group helping at-risk children. Suppose you know that 14.2% of the children. If you know that, that's a population parameter. Once again, know the answers. Consider each of the situations. You got it. And let's see, other little, that's not a quick one. That's another administrator one. So we've done a lot of the administrators. Some of your friends in this class are angry about a Newtown ordinance. They make an online survey. The type of sampling method might be classified. Okay, so the online surveys we're saying are more voluntary. Oh no! Seriously, last time it was voluntary, wasn't it? Last time the online survey was voluntary, wasn't it? Or am I reversing it? Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I'm gonna complain to my Pearson. Look at that. It's the statistics study, Major League Baseball players, you got it. Question 12, ooh, thank you right there. Let me find the exact question because I'm kind of, okay, wait. We were trying to find the one that, are we doing Blakely yours? It's the statistical study voter one. Okay, statistical study voter one. And then we'll do Olivia's coming up here. Statistical study voter ones. Convenience. Convenience is when your survey is set up in an easy way. It's set up in an easy way. We can actually do this one really quickly, so I'll just get this one, the Major League Baseball player, done, and then we'll do the next one. Convenience. It doesn't matter how you spell it, however you want. It's when you set up your survey in such a way that it's really easy, like talking to the first 100 students on campus is convenience. The 100 students are not going to have a strong opinion, or they might, but it's when you do it in such an easy way. Convince? Is there a trick, Savannah, to that I'm not, my brain's not had enough coffee yet to understand? Help me out. You got tricks. I always want to do some tricks. Because you convince them? Kinda, I could see that. Well, it's that you have easy access to them. Like going to campus and talking to the first 100 students is my favorite example, because you have easy, you just get the quickest and easiest things you have access to. So it's like getting the easiest things to talk to. It's easy, convenient. It's convenient, like convenient sampling. So you're not doing a good representation of all individuals. You're just doing it really easy. Like convincing your friends to do the survey would be convenient. So yeah, I think that's a good way. Convincing your friends to do the survey is convenience. It's not that your friends have strong opinions. You're just getting easy people to get. So convincing your friends to do the survey would be convenient. So don't do that. Major League Baseball player one right here, and then we'll do the next one. Officials select a team at random, and drug test crews show up unannounced to test all 23 players. Spring break, Brian, 100 points right there, Savannah. To test all 23 players, each testing day can be considered a study of the drug use. Okay. So the key thing here is they're testing all players on the team. So I think that's the key word. So they're doing all players on the team. I'm pretty sure that's the key word. So when you see that they take all of a group, what kind of sampling are we doing? Pretty sure we'll get it right using this methodology. When you take every individual in a group, you're doing what kind of sampling? So you have a group, and you take all of that group, all of it. So you go up to a bunch of teams, and you select a team, and you say, we're taking everyone on this team. What method is that? Savannah, you know it, it's cluster. Because you don't acknowledge differences, you're just saying we're taking all of it. You do a census when you do a cluster sample. Is that choice appropriate? This is where it gets a little iffy. So yes, the entire team can be sampled once relatively easy. I think this right here is the answer. Pretty sure that's the answer, yeah. I don't love this last answer. I do love the first one because this is a clear example of cluster. I do think there's issues with this though, because maybe one team is more likely to have people using than others. So definitely a cluster sample here. First part of the question is great. Second part, I kind of theoretically have problems with, so just put that answer. Don't love the second part of this. But this is 100% a cluster sample. Is it the right way to do it? Always debatable. People debate sampling methods all the time. 100% clustering, because cluster takes all of one group at one time. So it takes all of one group. We'll review more in class a lot on what cluster is. So Savannah, which one? Thank you, Savannah. Just rocking out here. Consider each of the following situations. Do you think it's appropriate? Okay. Consider, because we've done a lot of the first ones. We haven't, yeah. Consider the following situations. Do you think it's appropriate? What is this at? If you see the number, tell me. I think someone else mentioned another number here that we got to go back to. Ah, here we go. Found it. It's literally like it's literally the last question. So if you ever see a number, just be like, number this, because they switch around. People will be like, can you do number 5 on the quiz? And I'll be like, well, my number 5 is different. We are getting a lot done today. Consider each of the situations below. Okay. We want to know what % of local doctors do not accept patients without medical insurance. We call the offices of 50 doctors randomly selected from the Yellow Pages. Super clearly one of these. Don't even read their answers. We're only looking for a certain word in here. We go and we contact 50 random doctors from the Yellow Pages. Could be issues with it. Is that what they're going to say? No, they don't do issues. You just go to Yellow Pages, random doctor here. You probably use a random number generator. Very clearly a certain sampling method. Very, very clearly. Don't read their answers. I'm only looking for a certain word. Very clearly a certain sampling method. So this sampling method is you enumerate everything, which it doesn't say we did, but everyone would have a number. You randomly select numbers. So this is very clearly, don't even read their answers. Don't look at their answers. Oh, they're talking about what bias is there. Oh, they're doing biases. So I don't think it'd be non-response. This is a simple random sample of doctors within the Yellow Pages. So this is a simple random sample of doctors within the Yellow Pages, and that's the problem. Yeah, that's good job, Samantha, right there, under coverage, because the doctors who did not purchase Yellow Page ads, we would not have access to. So it's gonna be under coverage right here, and it's a simple random sample of doctors within the Yellow Pages, and we've undercovered. And undercoverage is when people we don't have access to. It's kind of an issue with the sample frame because you're not getting a representative view of the population. You're not, no one in your sample is going to be a non-Yellow Page doctor, so you don't know. In Yellow Pages, you have to buy ads for. See, they're using knowledge from like the 90s. To be in the Yellow Pages, you buy ads. So I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't remember the 90s that well. We want to know the percentage of local businesses anticipating their stocks to fall in the upcoming month. We randomly select a page in the Yellow Page and call every business listed there. Once again, this is gonna be interesting. Watch me get these wrong. The sampling method, it's a cluster of that page. Oh, so yeah, so businesses on a certain page are probably likely to be the same sort of business. Man, it goes with a lot of Yellow Page knowledge here. The sample will probably contain listings for only 1 or 2 types of businesses, resulting in undercoverage also. Sampling is not appropriate. This method will probably result in response bias since the question, no, it's just, no, that's not really response bias. It's undercoverage again, probably. And it would be non-response if people who didn't answer the phone differed in those way than those who do. You can't really get a non-response from this. We don't know the question wording, and it's probably gonna be this. Is it both? I don't love this question. Yeah, it's also undercoverage because it's a double undercoverage because you're doing Yellow Page and from one page. So you're undercovering people not on other pages. And then you're, because maybe, you know, like stock to fall. So if they're investing in Yellow Page, they're different than people who don't invest in Yellow Page because they probably have a higher business. Like someone who doesn't invest in the Yellow Page probably doesn't have the money, so they probably would expect their stock to fall. This is double undercoverage. So I don't love the question because it's really double undercoverage. That was a mid-grade. Once again, know the definitions of non-response. When people who don't respond differ in their opinion than those who do respond. Like if you're holding a sign up that says like, why do you love, and let's say Gary Johnson, former presidential candidate. Well, that would probably be voluntary bias because if you ask people, why do you love this person? You're like, oh, we found out why people love this person. Well, you're only talking to people who have a strong opinion. They're likely to speak to you. So that'd be voluntary bias. Non-response bias would be people who choose not. So like if you call people on the phone, examine to the following possible bias. Yeah, let's do that next here. If you call people on the phone and ask them, like, do you think it's good to talk to people on the phone? That is a perfect example of non-response bias. So you're calling up people on the phone, asking them, do you think it's okay? Like your survey question is, do you think it's okay to talk to people on the phone? Like, should you talk to people you don't know on the phone? And so think about this: the people who don't respond to you, who would like you say, hi, I'm doing and they don't respond to you. Well, they probably don't want to talk to people on the phone. So the people who don't give you the answer, you're like, man, I called people and 100% of people told me it's okay to talk to random people on the phone. Well, that's hugely non-response bias. That is a quintessential example of non-response bias. The people who didn't respond to you have differing opinions than those who do respond to you because the question is created in such a way. So that's the best example I can give you of non-response, because then people who talk to you have differing opinions than those who don't talk to you. And you have non-response problems. Examine each of the following questions for bias. So, stranger danger. Very cracking me up. That's what we used to have growing up. But my parents would get a call, and the person would be like, "Hi, we're collecting money for such and such," and my parents would be like, "Oh, here's our credit card number." My parents have literally given their credit card to people, which, let's just say, one time it had deleterious effect. That's the right way to use deleterious? I don't know. It's all right. I do statistics. I don't do English. Yeah, they literally, like, one time someone was like, we're collecting money for such and such charity. And my dad's like, here's the credit card. That person was probably like, oh my gosh, this worked. That credit card got canceled. I gotta stop telling stories. Anyways, my parents are too nice. I don't know. Thank you, Mom and Dad. They've turned me into the person I am today. A nice, trusting person who believes the best for the world. Yeah, it's bananas. Literally, I'll tell you one other quick story. Everything that happens bad in my parents' life is usually because they're too trusting. Like one time they had people working in the yard, and it's totally like, it was just a random person. It was a random person. And the person was like, hey, can I use your bathroom? And they're like, of course. And they went in and took stuff from the house. So it was just, and they found out about it. Another time they paid a person to do work on cutting down a tree, and they gave the person all the money beforehand, and the person just took the money, just didn't do anything. And so it's always been, and I don't even think they had a contract. It was like some local person who's like, hey, I'll take down your tree for you. And they're like, oh, here's $500. That's what you want? And there was no like contract or anything. And the person was like, oh, thanks for $500. So my parents are usually, yeah, people can be mean. It's usually because it's sad. It's like, but I'd rather have the too trusting parents than the parents who tell me the world's an evil, evil place where, I mean, they've made me into a nice, trusting person, and I'd rather be a nice, trusting person than a jaded, angry man, Brian. So anyways, okay, less about my parents, more about stats. But thank you, Mom and Dad. You turned me into a bright, cheery person, and then I learned through your experiences that things don't always go perfect. Okay. Do you think high school students should be required to wear uniforms? That's not that biased, actually. I don't think that's biased, because what way is that directing us? Here's how you can make the question biased. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, should high school students be required to wear uniforms? They'd be like, well, no, we're the land of the free. So that would put bias in there, having people push towards no. I don't really see... The question may be biased towards high school students because it is listed first. I don't know. Are they really going that extreme? Do you think the question may be biased because there's not probably enough context about uniforms? The better question would be, most of the uniforms today are comfortable. Oh, no, that's biasing towards people wearing uniforms. Like, this would make it biased. Like, this would make it biased. Like, oh, they're so comfy. Do you think high school students should wear them? The question may be biased because it does not provide enough context about preferences. A better question would be, do you agree with most people? That is making an ad populum fallacy. That is ad populum fallacy bias right there. Ad populum means towards the like popular opinion. The question may be biased towards the high school students because it is listed first. A better question would be, do you think that wearing uniforms is required for high school students? This is the only one. I'm going no bias. I think if they go this, they're really just being pedantic. So yeah. Given humanity's great tradition for exploration, bias, this is bias. Do you favor continued funding for space flights? This is biased. The question may be biased towards yes, because of great tradition. That should be good. Yeah, we're good. Bias just means that, and this is all what kind of bias? Do they even say what it is? What kind of bias are they trying to help us understand right here? So number 12. Oh, number 12. We'll do number 12 next. Thank you, Blakely. What kind of bias is this question helping you understand? Which is when the surveyor's questions or the way it's worded or my actions influence you to answer a certain way. This was all reviewing what kind of bias or seeing if this bias exists in these questions to give you a certain what. So what kind of bias were we trying to understand right here? Like this is all reviewing a certain type of bias. When the surveyor's actions or wording of questions pushes people to answer a certain way. So what kind of bias was this having you understand? The definition of this bias, whatever it's called, is when the surveyor's actions or questions influence you to answer a certain way. So when the surveyor's questions, actions, or something about the way they're doing the survey influence you to answer a certain way. Does anyone know for 100 points? This is all reviewing what kind of bias. Once again, check out the video going over this. I can't suggest the speed runs enough. The answer is currently on the screen. So the answer is on the screen. So look at the screen for the surveyor's actions or opinions influence you to answer the question a certain way. The answer is on the screen somewhere. Probably under biases. The surveyor's actions or opinions or the way the question's worded influence you to answer a certain way. Put it all the way over here. Right? The surveyor's actions or opinions influence you to answer a certain way. And the answer is response bias. Response bias. Response bias is when the, yep, great job Amy right there, response bias. The surveyor's actions or opinions influence the person taking the survey to answer a certain way. All of this is response bias. Just understand what kind of bias you're doing. Was there response bias right here? Are we pushing people towards a certain answer with, you know, we have a great tradition of doing exploration. Do you think we should invest more in space flights? Well, you're pushing me to say yes. Oh, our great tradition, we should honor that. Yeah, and then that's a ad tradition, or what's it called? There's a name for that fallacy too. Everything's fallacies. We are doing number 12. Blakely, thank you so much. Everyone, oh, we've already done number 12, I think. We do. Number 12, political science question. Okay. How does the political science question go, Blakely? How does it go, Blakely? What does the political science one say? Tell me about the political science one a little bit more. What's that political? Put a little chill music on here. What's the political science one say? Political science. Wow. Bringing up religion? For your political science class, you'd like to take a survey for a sample of all practitioners of Judaism. Bringing up, well, here it is. Now it's Buddhism. How many religions do they bring up? Mormonism. This is cool. Catholic Church. Orthodox Church. What? Mormon. Judaism. Hinduism. They better have all. I don't know if I've done this question. They're missing Sikh. They're missing Islam. They're missing, oh, Shinto? Wow, 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 wow. You'd think Protestant? Okay, we got Protestant, Shinto. They're missing atheist, agnostic. What other groups are they missing? I haven't seen Islam. What other group? We just saw it. We just saw it. All right. What other? My Pearson's gonna get mad at me. I think it just got mad at me. Any other groups they're missing? Jainism. 100 points. Name another religion they're missing. Because they kind of went like Protestant, they went Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox. Now I wonder if they occur at the same rates. And then they break off Mormonism. I'm very invested in this question. It's like my Pearson mentioning religion. Okay. Are they appearing at the same rates? And if you're wondering, every time I do my question, it doesn't change. So we are getting an oversampling of, okay. Let me stop that. Let's do the actual question. We're settling on the Catholic Church today. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Someone, I wonder who coded this one. So very, very interesting. Okay. This one looks like it might change based on the type of method we are doing. So, or type of question we are doing. So, interesting question. I think I saw something that clued me in immediately. Okay, ready to go with the question. So for your political science class, you'd like to take a sample from a sample of Catholic church members in your region. A list of places of worship shows 20 Catholic churches in the area. Rather than try to obtain a list of all members of all the churches. Now, if you talk to everyone at every church, which would you have done? If you went to all the church, you want to understand the Catholic churches in your area. And if you talk to everyone at every Catholic church, what would you have done for 100 points? So answer that while I try to do the start of this question. But this is additional knowledge that we should have, and you should have a term on your note cards, have note cards, write down your note cards, that if you talk to you want to understand the Catholic churches in your area, if you talk to everyone at every Catholic church in your area, you would have performed a what? Which you're not doing for this question, but you would have done this. So let's answer that. Rather than try to obtain a list of all members of all Catholic church, you decide to pick 2 churches at random. From these churches, you will get a list of all the members and contact 100 members at random. Okay. I see what they've done right here. So, and I'll answer the first question. If you talk to everybody at every church, that's a census. C-E-N-S-U-S, census. This is a multi-stage right here. It's a lot of the ones we have been doing because you're doing a simple random sample of the churches first. So it's a multi-stage with simple random, with a cluster sample. What are they doing? This is a multi-stage design with a cluster sample for the first stage and a simple random sample for each cluster. Let me see right here. Shows 20 Catholic churches in the area. Rather than 10, you decide to pick 2 churches at random. And they're saying, I really disagree. Well, they're really not even letting you pick anything different than cluster for the first stage right here. But let me see. We're going to the AI again. We're going to go to the, I hate how it doesn't let you do this right here. So let's go back to the AI real quick. And I have to know, tell me what kind of multi-stage sampling this is. There are 20 churches in my area. I decide to pick 2 random churches. Then from within those churches, I select 100 members at random for each church. Okay. So my issue with this is I think it's a double simple random sample because you're taking a simple random sample of the 20 churches. 2 churches are chosen at random, and then you're taking a simple random sample within the churches of 100 members. 2-stage clustering, really. So let's see right here. Within the selected clusters, interesting. I want to hear this argument. Once again, AI isn't perfect, and I might totally disagree with the AI right here. The scenario you've described is an example of 2-stage cluster sampling. Next, hoping to learn what issues you got it. Let's break it down. First stage, you select 2 churches from the 20 churches area. Each church represents a cluster, true, in the context of cluster sampling. But the issue is, in cluster sampling, we take everything in the cluster. The second, within the selected clusters, you then randomly choose 100 members from each church of the sample. In this process, the first stage includes a random sample. Yeah, it's a random sample of the clusters, but it's just, to me, this is multi-simple random sample. I wonder if they used AI to answer this too, or if it's looking at my Pearson question. Make the argument that this is simple random sampling done twice. Want to make my argument for me. It is just crazy what AI can do. So it's saying it is a cluster, but the way I use cluster, simple random sample SRS, the first instance of simple random sample occurs when 2 churches are selected randomly from a pool of 20 churches in this step. Yeah, exactly. Each church has a likely, that's what simple random sample is everything has an equal and likely chance to be selected. This is exactly my argument, is that in the first stage, you are doing a simple random sample of the 20 churches. And the key words right here is each church has an equal and likely chance to be selected. And then the 100 members, each member has an equal and likely chance to be selected right here. And this is the key thing, is that you're taking 2 churches out. I kind of like doing this right here. 2 churches out of the 20 churches, a simple random sample. Every church has an equal likely chance of being selected. 100 members out of all the members. Do people like this? I think this is a good way to exemplify the topic. So out of all the members, 100 members are selected. Every member has an equal and likely chance to be selected, which is the definition. I'm wondering if this is a good way to teach the topics. Once again, I'm just trying to utilize more AI and show this. But do people like this? Don't like this? I know I'm going into extra detail, but this is my thoughts and understanding. And then also with the answer on the screen right here, making it easier to read for people who want to come back and review this. Simple random sample, sometimes abbreviated SRS, is going to be everything has an equal and likely chance to be selected. So that's what we have right there. What could go wrong? One of the churches might not be representative, but that's just a problem, especially with a small amount of clusters or groups. They want to call it groups. Yeah, so one of the churches might not be representative. Good stuff right there. For the political science class, we did that one. Next, hoping to understand what issues resonate with voters. Do that one. Hoping to understand what issues resonate with voters. I like doing that right there because it just even helps me read over, like, some of them are good responses. I want to have the sharpest knowledge of all the topics. Sharpest knowledge helps. Like a extra notes. So 139, 33. We've done a lot today. Chapter 10 quiz. Hoping to learn what issues may resonate. Okay. So the population is all people or things we want to understand. So we'll do the completed version. So it's all voters in the city because they are right here. They're doing the mayoral campaign. So they would literally go to the city. So it's going to be all voters. You might say, wouldn't it be all city residents? Well, the problem with all city residents is there's going to be like kids, and kids don't vote. Problem is you're going to have people who don't vote. People are not registered to vote. So they want to understand, so they want to know voters. They literally say right here, what issues may resonate with voters? That's the key right there. Like, if they want to say with residents of the city, then that's different. Then they would include like all city residents. So the key right there, why is the population all voters? It's because they want to understand. They want to learn about the voters. So that's right there. What is the population parameter? It's going to be interest, or what they're interested in. It's not really clear, but it's whatever they're interested in. It's what issues resonate. So the parameter of interest for the population is defined as the thing we want to learn about, the thing of interest. What do we care about? So if we're trying to see, like, do you think the city is clean? Well, then that would be the parameter of interest. Do you think the city is well funded? That'd be the parameter of interest. Not really clear. It's just the most important issues. So what issues resonate the most? That's what we want to learn about. So right there, that is the thing we want to learn about the population. Sample frame, 3 blocks. So this is going to be the sample frame right here. It's the 3 blocks. Those are the people we have access to talk to. So right here, the 3 blocks, all city residents. Oh, because we did select, hopefully it didn't say all city blocks, or we would have gotten it wrong. Okay, good. So once again, gotta be careful right here, because theoretically, so I made an error. It's not the blocks we select, because we're going to select from all the city. So because we're selecting from all the city, even though we narrow it down to 3 city blocks, we could have theoretically, and that's the key part of what always gets the sample frame, even sometimes I make a mistake, theoretically you could talk to anyone in the city. So it'd be all areas of the city we have access to. So it's, and it is weird. I do also, this is where I probably would have made an error, is they say all voters in the city. This is where I probably might have made an error if I was doing this on my own, because we're interested in people who vote. So I almost disagree with my Pearson here. I wish I could just copy this whole thing, because I swear the AI would agree with me, because you do have access to talk to anyone in the city, but you're not going to really utilize that. So I would say our sampling frame is all the voters. It's just whoever you have access to. It's not the 3 blocks. I was wrong on that, because we have access to talk to anybody. You say, well, we're going to talk to 3 blocks. Well, it could be any 3 blocks. So anywhere in the city. So technically, I do agree, we have access to anyone in the city, but we're probably not going to use that access. We're going to use it to talk to all voters. What is the sample for the study? It's going to be anyone from the 3 blocks who talks to us. So specifically, since we're doing 3 blocks, the blocks are going to be the strata right here, which we're going to take representatively. It doesn't say talk to everybody in the block, which would be a cluster. It says that we are just going to go within, and each district will be represented by the 3 blocks. So the campaign director for the mayoral candidate randomly selects 3 blocks from the city. Staff members go and interview all the residents they can find. The residents will be asked to select the 2 most issues important to them. Here's what's interesting. With each district being represented by the 3 blocks. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it is. Man, they would have caught me off guard on this one so much. So what's going on right here? It's more complicated than ever. I need to draw it out. So what they're doing is they've got District A, District B, District C. And they're considering each of these right here to be different strata. And then they take 3 blocks within here. And this is really a multi-stage to me. This is truthfully a multi-stage, because this up top is the strata where we acknowledge differences. And then this is the cluster. Man, they catch me off guard with that, because you're talking to everyone on the 3 blocks. So you have the districts, which are the strata, and then you're doing the clusters within the districts. This is a multi-stage. That is multi-stage. And right here, cluster, with each block being a cluster. This is where it gets confusing. And look, multi-stage is right here. Man, I do not like this question. With the blocks being selected first and then the staff performing interviews, it's... Don't like that. Oh, what, really? 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 Wow. There it is. Called it. Just don't like the way they organize this. It's not super clear. But once again, I said it, that this is multi-stage, because they're doing strata, acknowledging differences in the districts. They're saying like District A, District B, District C, and then they're doing a cluster within each district. It's just like, what is the sample for this study? Oh, like, what is the sample? Just, you could answer this. The clusters. Is the sampling method random? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Who was left out? I mean, there's ways to argue this. They're probably going to say no one, because this is a random sample. But you could argue this from the point of, like, people who are homeless are probably not going to be sampled. But we're not interested in non-voters, so you can't say kids. It could, but we're not interested in kids because they don't vote. Sorry, kids. But you could say homeless people, I guess. So the staff members interviewed all residents they could find. So anyone they could not find. There we go. So like people who are homeless without homes would be people they couldn't find. So that does make sense. All people that do not live in the city, but we don't care about them. So anyone they couldn't find, like if they live in that district. What type of bias is evident? Okay, so if they can't find people, that's going to be, wouldn't be non-response, because they're not choosing to not talk to us unless they're like literally avoiding us. It might be under coverage. It's going to be either nothing or under coverage, because if there's homeless population and we can't access them, that's going to be under coverage of individuals and registered vote. So there might be individuals like undercovered by this. So if there is bias, it's gonna be undercoverage. If not, it's gonna be nothing. Undercoverage. Yeah, it'd be undercoverage. Staff members interviewed all the residents they could find. All the residents may have different priorities than those they could not find. Exactly, and this is a good example of it. Good answer right here. It's only one of them I didn't like. And once again, the number one way to do these questions is to try to answer it using the terms before you see the answers. So once again, they're just going to try to confuse you with a bunch of random nonsense answers like voluntary bias. There's no voluntary bias here. So what you want to do is you want to try to answer these, and I can't say this enough, without looking at the answers. I know I had the answers on the screen, but remember, I scroll down here and then I think, okay, what kind of bias is there? And before I answer it, I'm like, well, if they don't have access to people, they're not like there's certain people they can't talk to, that's going to be undercoverage because the people who they don't have access to might have differing opinions than the ones they do have access to, because you've undercovered them, you didn't put them in your survey. So really good right there, except for the one part where I was like, it's a multi-stage, and they're like, it's a multi-stage. I'm like, that's what I thought. I drew it out. I explained how it's a multi-stage. And we make these super clear on the test. Like it's taught towards the lecture on the test. It's very clear. This My Pearson quiz is a tougher one, even though it's just multiple choice for a lot of the questions. Probably one of the tougher quizzes to get 100 on. Like I have people going crazy with their 5 attempts, getting like 95s and 96s on this, but it's a tougher one. But overall, it's a pretty good quiz. Like there's a few where I'm like, I don't know about that one. See if there's any quick ones right here. Administrators of Texas A&M, select several dormitories at random, contact everyone living. My gosh, I can't read today. That's gonna be a cluster. Use a computer-based list of registered students, 200, 200, 200. That is stratified. Use a computer-based algorithm to select list of students, select the first 30 names at random, then select contact the student whose name is 60th names later. Oh, that's gonna be systematic because they're taking a random starting point. You get it all right. Yep. So this is a good question here too. Well, let me just speed ran that question. Let me explain it right here and let me put it in the notes because people might come back to this one. So put it in the notes. Chapter 10. We did so many of these today. Administrators. This is another Texas A&M. I gotta find out, did Texas A&M do a deal with them we're interested in? Okay. So when you select a bunch of dormitories, the dormitories are the clusters, and you always do a census of your clusters. Contact everyone. This is the key to me that it was a cluster right here because you're contacting everyone in the dorms. So if it was a strata, you would sample within the strata randomly. So by contacting everyone in the dorm, you're doing a census of the cluster, 100% a cluster sample. The next one is a clear example of stratified because you're acknowledging differences to start, that freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors have differing views probably, because you're acknowledging the differences to start right here and then sampling within the differences representatively. That is stratified. Stratified does not take all of the group. It just acknowledges the differences like we did here previously. And a really good example we did was for the last question where the districts were the strata, where we say like we got district A, district B, district C going forward, and then we're going to take 3 blocks. So the blocks were the cluster because we talked to everyone in the block, but the districts are not the clusters, because if the districts were the clusters, we would talk to everybody in the districts. The districts are where we acknowledge the differences and we say district A might be different than district B because districts are sometimes different in their opinion. And that makes it strata because we're acknowledging differences and then we're sampling within it. We're not taking everybody because that would be clusters then. But when we go within the districts, we take 3 random blocks, literally blocks of people, like block A, like this is your block, you know, back when you lived on the street. And so we take 3 random blocks. The blocks have everybody sampled. They are clusters. So that's a good example there. And these 2 first questions really acknowledge the difference. Like if you can get these right, you understand very much how we ask it on the test. Literally giving you numbers like that, or literally using the idea of everybody. Really good test questions here. Wink, wink. Teaching to the test, write those down, know them. Using computer-based algorithm, you select one of the first 30 names at random. This is choose a random starting point right here, and then select every 60th. This is the big clue right there, the th on that. And if you go here in the video, I can't say this enough, that if you go to where I do systematic sampling, it's literally choose a random starting point and select every kth observation. The kth is arbitrary. You can change it from second to 20th. It does depend on like how much you want to go. Food safety inspectors, week's worth of oranges. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that when we circle back on it. Good thing we'll end with that one right here. We did it earlier, but it's we will do it here. Thank you for being here. This will be our last question. We'll circle back. One of the ones over here that we've done, food safety inspectors. Soil samples. We didn't do soil samples today. Food safety inspectors. Here it is. Okay. So where it is, food safety inspectors. There we go. And food safety inspectors. These questions are tricky. And thank you so much, Blakely, getting this done. Write down those definitions. Food safety inspectors. Okay. So the population is everything we want to understand. So what are they interested in? It's going to change it. You see, it produces apples now. So they want to understand all produce farms that produce apples right here. That is their population of interest. Now, the parameter is what they want to understand. And I don't like this question for this reason, because they want to understand contamination. What do they want to understand about contamination? Well, that's pretty unclear. But they do want to understand something about contamination. The parameter of interest, this is not a good way to review things, my person, because when it's unclear, you're not really helping people understand what the point of a parameter of interest is. Maybe we want to understand what % of apples have pesticides on them. Maybe we want to understand what % of apples have dirt on them, or there it is, contain dirt. Like, that's probably what we want to understand, like what % contain dirt. And that literally is right here. That probably sounds more reasonable. If you remove the unclear, it's probably the % that are contaminated. Of course, the presence of contaminants is pretty similar to this. It is a little unclear, but I'd probably go they want to understand what % of apples are contaminated. Once again, the right answer is shown on the screen. The sample frame would be the apples we have access to sample. So when we go unannounced, what apples can we get access to? Well, it's whenever we go unannounced, and it's going to be those apples that week. So it would be the apples that week that we have access to samples. So whatever apples are there when we show up are going to be the apples produced that week. Those are the ones we can sample from. Sample frame are the things you have access to sample from. Identify the sample. That's just the apples we take that were produced that week. So the sample is literally going to be what you take and collect data on. So that's your sample. Sampling method. It's kind of convenient because we're showing up. We're just saying, give me the apples. We just take the ones we see right there. It's kind of non-random-ish. I think non-random convenient. And it's not really specified on random. Once again, I hate the not specified, but it's convenient because we're just taking the easiest access apples. So that's convenience right there. Easy to access, walk in, say, give me these apples. We're not really doing a good randomized method. What group was left out? You could say the apples from other weeks, probably. Or not really left out, but apples from other weeks is my best answer. No group left out. The apples that were not tested, produce farms that were not tested. Once again, not loving this one, but no group was left out. I bet statisticians could argue against that one. Identify any problem or bias right here. Since no groups were left out, this is the key. You always have to go contingent on the answers my person has. If no groups are left out, there's no bias. They will always direct you down a path with these questions where if they're saying like, is there a problem here? And then you're like, yeah, there's a problem. Then they want you to tell the bias. So these, I don't know who wrote these questions, but you always should have clear objectives and questions. These are kind of the iffier ones. They've got good parts. Why I keep them in is they have good, solid knowledge you need to learn. And then they get iffy on later things. They get iffy. Well, with that, Blakely, thank you so much. We have a ton. Oh my gosh, look at this. Look at everything we did. We got to hit save or we'll lose all the work. So really good work right here. Tons of knowledge. Make sure to practice these. Make sure to know these. Till next time. Bye for now. Bye. You're welcome, Blakely. Bye.